And joining us to give us a bit more on the story is our international correspondent, Hafiya Hagan. Hafiya, talk to me about what this means in practical terms for people in Hong Kong, as well as how long this Article 23 has been in the making.
Well, this particular law has been in the making for over 20 years. In fact, it was tried to be passed in 2003, but hundreds of thousands of people came out in the streets to protest against these national security laws and this particular Article 23. So in 2019 in Hong Kong, we had quite a lot of pro-democracy protests on the streets. Now, this is since Chinese rule took over after Hong Kong was a former British territory. In 1997, it went back to Chinese rule. And Hong Kong, they have this system of two states, two laws, and two sets of laws. They are separate from China, but China has been increasingly trying to encroach on Hong Kong, which is why you had those pro-democracy protests in 2019. And then in 2020, this national security law came to being, and there was even more protests in Hong Kong. And now this has led to the passing of Article 23, and people are seeing it as a real encroachment on human rights and against things like those pro-democracy protests. We haven't seen anything like that since, no large-scale protests since. Those happened in 2019 and 2020 because of this crackdown of this national security law, and now this leading to Article 23.
Well, according to reports, this kind of law was also passed in Beijing 4 years ago, and it, for the opposition, they have sort of been silenced. What do you make of how this will pan out for people in Hong Kong? Does it mean the opposition would likely also be silenced?
Well, what this means for people in Hong Kong or anyone who's in opposition to the government, that they, in fact, will be silenced. They are certainly in danger of that. I mean, this 2024 version of Article 23 allows for things like closed-door trials. You can detain suspects for up to 16 days without charge. And it covers sort of 5 main areas. That's the theft of state secrets and espionage. There's sabotage, endangering national security, there's external interference, there's insurrection, and there's treason. If you look at something like insurrection, that could be assisting an armed force or an organization to which the force belongs in armed conflict against China. If you talk about sabotage or endangering national security, so that is a new offense that targets people who endanger national security by intentionally or by being reckless. It can also criminalize computer-related acts that harm national security. So if you're doing any of these things, and especially in opposition to the government, then absolutely you can be in danger of going to prison. And remember, Article 23 allows closed-door trials and holding people in prison for up to 16 days. And so, yes, if you are in opposition to the current government, even though this law apparently has 99% of people behind it, but if you are in opposition in any way, then yes, you could certainly be subject to Article 3. And bodies like Amnesty International say that this is about dampening down on democracy, and this is about encroaching on people's human rights.
When you talk about this law, clamping down on people who attempt to sabotage or perpetrate violence, that seems to me to be a positive thing. Why then is this such a controversy, attracting so much criticism?
And that's a really good question. Look, Hong Kong officials have justified Article 23 by saying that most offences outlined in this legislation are already covered under similar laws that exist in Western nations. We're talking about insurrection and espionage and things like that. And absolutely, we have those laws worldwide. But critics say that it gives authorities a little bit too much power, and to crack down on dissidents, crack down on anyone that has anything negative to say, even if it's in a very fair forum, against China, against Beijing, against that government. And if you cannot hold a government to account, if you can't have an effective opposition, then that means that you are completely cracking down on democracy. Amnesty International said that this will take repression to the next level. Their China director, Sarah Brooks, said the rapid progression of legislation under Article 23 shows the government's eagerness to further dismantle human rights protection and turn its back on its international obligations. The political motivation behind this seems to be more important than any practical need. That's what people are saying, that this is politically motivated. This is about cracking down on dissidents. This is about making sure that nobody opposes China and opposes Beijing. But remember, Hong Kong has always been fiercely independent, or wanted to be, of certain parts of China and Chinese rule. But it seems that more and more China is taking back control of Hong Kong.
Well, thank you so much for helping us unwrap these. Fia Hagan, our international correspondent.